Disco Elysium. Not in this goddamn country.
Yeah.
Banned.
Director's cut. Is
The final
banned.
cut.
Final cut.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's right.
Yeah.
So the version for consoles.
Snyder cut.
The Snyder cut. Well, I mean, I guess it is a bit longer and... Is it?
Still
yeah, it's more
boring.
stuff in it. Yeah.
No, this game isn't boring.
So this has like full voice acting.
Yeah.
It's the version for consoles, except the Switch version isn't quite out yet.
It doesn't quite have full voice acting.
It's
got more.
It's got more, yeah.
Definitely
Yeah.
still some of the lines aren't there, which feels even weirder when 95% of them are.
I swear to God, in the trailer for it, a big thing they were saying was full voice acting for every line. And
Yeah.
I did read about how there was a glitch with the PS5 version very first at launch where something that was happening was some of the dialogue not playing.
Yeah, I was
And-
going to say, I've
Yeah.
been playing it on PC. I played it when it launched, and I've been playing it, updated it, and started it again. I had been paying very close attention to that every line of dialogue being a voice acted thing. I haven't noticed any not being voice acted.
It's the bits that don't... I like the ones that make sense that they're not voice acted are when someone is talking and then there's like a little bit of description in between two bits of dialogue.
Yeah.
It will just play the dialogue with that description inferred in the acting, and that's fine. But there are just sometimes little descriptive bits that your brain voice should be doing that
Right.
are just there and they don't get read out.
I've
You
got
guys
no-
are playing on PS5?
PC.
Oh, really?
I'm on
Okay.
PS5,
Well, right,
which
yeah.
makes me think that I've still got I've done an update and everything, but I think because I've had it happen where I'll go talk to a character and the first thing that they say to me is voiced, and then everything in the conversation after that is just not there.
There
Yeah.
are also settings like it's you can have it set to the final cut version with all of them voiced, but you can have classic mode where it's only the original voice lines too. So maybe
Interesting.
you've got that set. But yeah, it's only very, very small.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
like 98% of them are voiced.
Yeah.
It was just weird to notice a few where I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because I'm very much doing it in the way of, if you don't know anything about Disco Elysium,
yeah.
by the
Yeah,
way,
let's set it up.
Because
it's-
I've apparently, huge surge in population with the Final Cut coming out. It wasn't a massively popular game on launch. It's just something that we knew about because we were, I guess, looking for stuff to talk about. It has become quite popular, and obviously, a bunch more reviews, a bunch more people saying this is a masterpiece. But if you're one of the people who's only heard that and hasn't played it yet, this is a detective murder mystery, noirish,
Kinda.
point and click isometric game set in a fictional world.
Yeah.
Where you play as the detective who sort of wakes up, no memory, and you stumble your way through trying to figure out what's going on and solving this case.
You have to solve a murder,
Yeah.
and also you're trying to kind of work out who you are.
yeah, you've
And
got
so-
full-blown amnesia.
Yeah, you're meeting people along the way, but your thoughts are also fully voiced
Yes.
along the way. So your brain is kind of talking to you, and so it's
In several different voices as well, because it opens
Yeah.
up with like a little quote about the Furies or something from Greek mythology, and
Yes.
it's like all of your different aspects of your inner narration are voiced by separate voices or separate tones of from the same voice.
which are also become more persuasive or less persuasive the more you decide to agree with them, or the more you level up certain aspects of your character's sort of
Right.
like RPG set of stats.
Exactly.
So, yeah, it's relatively easy to get into in the sense that, you know, the art style and the story and everything is like so immediate and so fantastically done. And there's no, you know, you don't need to like learn combat, or you don't
Right.
need to like have reflexes or anything. You're just kind of walking around, talking to people, clicking on things. So it is easy to get into in that sense. But then there's also like kind of a lot going on, sort of like the way that you you pick a personality at the start, and you kind of are leveling up these different attributes of your personality, and that I'm still kind of trying to get to grips with that,
Well, it
because it
doesn't-
doesn't really ever tell you how that all works.
No, you've kind of got to go into those menus and dig and figure it out. But like, part of what it is trying to do is make you feel disoriented at first, at least.
Yeah.
Like, it seems like it's very much designed. This is my first time playing it, but it seems like it's built with the idea that like you can play this multiple times in very different ways.
Yes.
Yes.
Because it is basically a choose your own adventure book.
Yeah.
But a very complicated one with lots of pages.
Yep.
Those things that you're leveling up are like, I don't remember what the exact words they use are, but it's like confidence or anxiety or
Yeah, logic.
Yeah,
your
some-
ability
yeah.
to notice.
Empathy.
Right.
Yeah.
And they
Charisma.
dictate like the kind of what you can choose in conversation. So it'll be something like, I guess, like someone giving you like a little riddle or a little puzzle, and if you've got the logic and all the problem-solving part of your brain kind of leveled up enough, you'll be able to easily solve that. But if you don't, you'll fail at it, and then you'll go down a different branching path in the conversation.
Exactly. So it'll be built with like, there's a guy will go, "Hello, sir. Would you like to buy an ice cream?" And
That's one thing we should say. The writing is really fantastic in this game.
Yes.
Yeah.
That ice cream line. Mwah.
Well, but so here's where the writing does get good in this
Okay,
game. You can
okay.
take a simple line that wasn't meant to be amazing, and if someone said it, they weren't looking for criticism. It's not like they mispronounced Konami. You can't jump down their throat for this one.
Leaning forward, lot of slack on the headphone cord at the moment, folks.
Hello, sir. Would you like to buy an ice cream? And then, like, if you don't have anything leveled up, it'll just be like yes or no. But maybe if you've leveled up like manipulation, there'll be a little voice that comes in and goes like, "This guy's pupils dilated when you showed up, so I think he likes you. You could probably flirt your way into an ice cream." Blah,
Right.
blah, blah.
Yep.
And then you get a third option. And if you've got a risk taking one or whatever, it'll be like, "Punch him."
Yeah.
Punch him and take the ice cream.
Yeah.
Totally. And there's more. This is not like, you know, a list of 9 stats like in a normal RPG. There's like
fucking heaps.
25 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's like 4 main groups, and
Yeah.
then each of them has like 6 within it, something like that.
Something like that, yeah. And I think where it becomes the most interesting, because, yeah, I played this for a few hours a couple of years ago.
Yep.
And felt very overwhelmed. But really, like, yeah, the same as you, Tommy. Like, loved the style, loved the storytelling at the start.
Yeah, a lot of games, if you don't get the stat stuff, you can't really get on with it. But
Right.
this, you can still, well, sort of because you have to, like by design, you can still pretty easily just kind of like muddle through.
Yes.
And just go around and talk to people and just pick what you think makes sense in the conversations without really realizing what's happening
Yeah.
in the background.
And it's not sort of like you're not seeing huge sort of like wins or losses from those interactions at that early stage. I think where it becomes really useful and interesting is when you start interrogating people and trying to solve these various mysteries that start popping up, because there is this one main one, but there's a bunch of other shit you can do. It's not necessarily related to the murder.
Tasks will kind of be presented to you over the course of conversation, and like pretty quickly you fill up your little task list with like 10 things that just all come up from just talking to the first few people that you encounter.
And
Right.
those are pretty much quests, and then at the same time you have thoughts, which
Yes.
are secondary things that you're like. The idea is you're ruminating on them in the background, and
Yep.
you've got to kind of equip them into slots, which it also doesn't tell you. So I wasted a bunch of time towards the start not doing any.
Yeah, I still don't really understand this. I've only unlocked one of them, but I don't quite get how it works.
You equip it. Time is always passing in the game when you're talking to people. So you've got a real time, or not a real time, but a clock
Yes.
going, and you've got seemingly a time limit, a certain number of days that you will be able to do this for. And different things will happen on different days, like Majora's Mask or something, and then it will end, and you either have solved it by then or you've died or whatever. In the background in your head, if you've got a thought equipped, it will take a set amount of time to process that thought. And then when you do, you will get some piece of information or a benefit or whatever.
A bonus, a stat bonus, or that, like, there is one key one that you're very obviously presented with towards the start of the game that is told, like, hey, if you do this, it might be actually like a bad thought or a negative thought
Right.
to pursue, but if you do it, you'll be able to relate more to this character who will do something for you.
Yeah.
And you cannot do that if you don't want to. Or you can sort of compromise the way you're playing this character and be like, okay, I'll look into this shit, but I'm not going to take it seriously.
Because a big part of this game is literal role playing. Like,
Yep.
you can establish your own character if you want, but there's also sort of 3 main types to pick from right at the beginning of like, do you want to be a very logical guy, a very charming guy, or another one?
A fighting guy.
A
Physical,
fighting
yeah.
guy. Yeah. the one I respect the least. So forgot about.
And there's a wife guy. You can be a wife guy.
Right.
And
Family
also
guy?
Family
Yeah.
guy, yeah. Oh, no.
Tommy knocked over his own drink because he loved his Family Guy jokes so much. And so with the writing, it is very good. It is extremely well written, and it is in many different styles that are impressive to all be contained within the one thing, because it's like it's got a lot of different things going on. because it is asking you to play the role of very specific types of people, it quite comfortably has like, yeah, you can be like very generous hero guy or whatever, that is in there. Or if your stats are all in this one thing, it's like it gives you opportunities to be a fucking total absolute cunt.
Yeah, it does, yeah.
In an uncomfortable way. You know what I mean? Where the writing is there, and it's like a conversation people have about movies like 3 Billboards or something, where like, when there's racism in a movie, does it make the movie racist?
Yeah.
And it's a strange feeling to have, like, early on, you if you have a lot of logic and that type of character, which is the one I went for, it will give you a thing of like, do you want to turn into a real sexist piece of shit here? Do you want to start being a real fucking asshole?
Yeah, I have found those choices difficult, and I realize I kind of haven't really been playing. I haven't really been doing it in the role-playing way of sticking to the character type that I chose, which was the charming person. That seemed like that was going to be the most beneficial for doing an investigation and you know, this game that is all based around talking to people. But then it feels like at certain points it sort of, by betraying that and by being a bit of a cunt or whatever, it sort of makes it feel like it's going to progress the game and the story better than if you stuck to that instinct of you know what I mean?
Well, because you get presented with a lot of different choices, whether or not they fit your character sometimes. Like you would some of them are there as kind of like a joke thing of like, throw a potato at this cunt or whatever. Like and if you pick that, it happens and your character's done it. So you can be like this. It feels like they've written the normal characters and then they've written like, do you want to be fucking Rick and Morty Rick? Right. Kind of, and that sort of thing. But some of them are just like, do you want to be an actual like MRA dude?
Right.
And the writing for that stuff is kind of gross to read, weirdly. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm actually kind of finding myself be like, you know, why am I having to read this?
That's interesting. I mean, I don't choose any of that stuff, but
it pops up there as like the choices.
Yeah, I don't know why a protagonist shouldn't be able to be like that if you can have an antagonist who's like that, and that's not a problem, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, well,
I don't know where
they had to write a bad guy to say those awful things, so I think it's interesting. Like I've obviously, what I'm finding more interesting than the sort of the moral choices, I guess these are semi-moral, is like it starts to present political ideologies to you as well. They become sort of dominant in certain conversations.
Because the world is a little like, it makes me think it's what it would be like to live in that 1984 world or something, where all the places have weird names, everything's fucking, everyone's poor, everything sucks. You know what? It just has that feeling of that like very fake constructed world that is, I mean, deliberately so by the powers that be or whatever, not fake as in when you are playing it comes across as disingenuous. But sorry.
So well, no, on the back of that, it feels like this specific area that you're playing in within a fully invented world is like, it is meant to be sort of like a heavy-handed, like, there was a revolution. Yeah. The revolution was put down. Now this place is controlled by a coalition of foreign powers. And also there's unions, there's corporations. Like, it's sort of like, this is all very like proper noun, like union with a capital U stuff. But I think that's interesting, and that ties into the way you play your character as well. Because I keep getting like, you're a communist. Like my inner voice is like, you know, you're like the personification of Karl Marx, like their version of Karl Marx. Yeah. And I'm
his name is Karl something, right? Isn't
it's like Krav Maga. It's
Krav
KM.
Mazaks or something like that. Yeah, that's right.
Which is interesting because it starts to influence the decisions I make. I'm like, no, I don't want to be like a full radical communist. I don't know if that's going to be the best way to solve this murder. And then I've started to get options of like, oh, you're actually sort of like a liberal, you know, like you just want democracy and you got to sacrifice some of your morals. And I'm like, I don't want to do that either. But it's all written and it's all presented as options and it's all coming from my character and the characters I'm interacting with. Like there's so much here.
And the options are given to you in a way where it's like, almost like negative self-talk in your head. So you can choose to shut that thought down.
Yes, you can.
And so it pops into you as an invasive thought pretty much. That's how all these things come across where it's like, so you do this quest early on where like the guy behind at a cafe where you are is like, you're trying to find someone who used to work there and they left because he came on to them. And like it gives you options. This was a bit where like, and I'm not saying it's like, oh, the game is bad for it, and people do have that opinion about that. But like, it gives you an option early on to be like, maybe she's just a fucking, and
right,
goes on down that
dick
road.
Carousel, I think.
Yeah,
is the
right.
specific. Yeah,
maybe she's riding the dick carousel.
Yeah,
dick. It doesn't say that, but maybe it'd be a little more lighthearted if it did. But like, it's just like,
I think. I mean, I do agree that it is weird,
but it
to
is
read
writing
that
them
stuff.
as a character. Like it is very much writing it as one of 50 different types of characters that it's letting you.
Yeah, it's sort of like you
Right.
do get the impression, but because of the fact that this character has lost their memory because of drinking a lot, and
Right.
Yes.
there is a it's very heavily like overtly stated when you first turn up in the cafeteria, you wake up from your hotel room of your room in this hostel, that you have just been being a complete cunt while you've been there.
yeah.
So reading that kind of gross stuff, like it is a bit like, oh man, but it's also like it didn't feel too bad to have him say that, because it's like, well, this is a bad guy.
seems
I'm
like
getting
who
the
he
impression
is.
that he kind of is a bad guy, so I
Yes.
don't feel like I've just made this like blank canvas person who it's like, I feel like I'm really
Right.
I don't want to do this. I'm really it's like, no, I don't want to be saying this, but it sounds like that's the sort of thing that he would say and that he
Yeah.
does buy into. So
Like you look at his face in the mirror and your voice in your head is like, you've got the slimiest smile and
Yeah.
ever grinned. And it seems like, he's a kind of a fuckhead.
yeah.
And it just gave me a reaction,
That's
And
probably good.
Reacting to
Your,
things.
your empathy
that's
voice.
my job.
Your empathy voice is active. That's
Yeah.
good.
I'm
I
one of
think I
them kids
do-
holding a Game Boy going, what's this? That's me, just reacting.
I do need to, I think, really, lock in and just stick to a personality in it and kind of see that all the way through, because I do keep getting an option will come up and it's like, well, this kind of seems like the more interesting thing to click.
Right.
This seems like it would be more, it's like, I kind of want to see what happens if I do this to this person. And I'm sort of being a little bit, but then being spooked off by it if the voice in the
Right.
head is
But
like, maybe don't do this. I sort of need to commit one way or the other and just like barrel through.
When you're so confused early on
Yeah.
as to what's going on, that
Yeah.
sort of experimentation leads you down a bunch of different paths.
That's true.
So it almost seems like the type of game where I will get a bad fucking ending this time. It
Yep.
will all go wrong. I won't solve the case, and then play it again, and it will be a more fun game the second time.
I'm certainly enjoying my second, and I only played it for a few hours originally. I feel like I am benefiting from having had the experience, or the beginning experience at least once before. I know that, maybe being a crazy, eccentric maverick is going to lead to a dead end at one point. Like, I started, dying in my first playthrough of this game.
Yeah.
Or losing all
I
my
passed
morale.
out for a while, but you've got health and morale that
Yeah.
will go down if you get embarrassed,
Yeah.
or will go down if you drink too much or whatever.
I lost
Kick
my
something.
health by trying I lost my health by trying to kick in too many doors and then died.
Well, I never did that. But there are a couple of things where, I tried to kick a furnace and
Right.
it killed my character, which it's also been pointed out, while your character is sort of slow-mo dying, you can heal. But I didn't actually know that. I just thought you lose your health and you die.
No, you get little health packs or whatever.
Yeah.
But they're not health packs. They're like penicillin or something.
Yeah.
Or Panadol.
But also, it's if this guy, this total drunk who's been on, a binge for a week plus.
Can enjoy Disco Elysium, then maybe I can too.
We should also quickly say that the reason we've played this and can talk about it is because we all travelled to the United States
Yes.
about a month ago.
Nah.
We did the 2 weeks of quarantine, and then
I own the original version of Steam on Steam, and they just updated it. And
Oh
it's
fuck!
fine.
All right. Well, I'm
You
playing
set up
it on
an
the
illegal,
PlayStation
North
5.
American-
I went to I got it.
No,
on
you
a
lied
ship.
about your address.
No, I got on a cruise ship and I went into international waters.
You said that you were George Bush on the form. I saw you do it.
Now watch this drive.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, yeah. But what I was saying was, it makes sense that sometimes you knock on a door too hard and your character dies because he's in a fucking way.
Right.
It does. There's not a lot happening where you're like, well, why couldn't I figure that out? Why didn't I pass that test? It's like, because.
Right.
because I shouldn't have.
Because that's the other thing. You've got these stats, but then it's also a dice roll on
Yes.
some things happening. And some of them you only get to attempt once ever, and then if it goes whichever way it goes, some of them you can come back later on and try again.
Yes.
Like there'll be a fake wall, and you will have a look around, and you'll be like, oh, no, I think it's just a regular wall. But then you can come back later and be like, wait a minute, it is a fake wall.
Yeah, and sometimes you can redo them because of like conversations you had.
Yep.
Or you just level up the relevant stat.
And it'll tell you what all of those are.
Yes.
And it is a very well-written game. Like, it's funny. It's sweet when it wants to be.
Yep.
It's, like, fucking depressing when it wants to be.
The style is great. The style is so like just rock solid. The amount of stuff going on is so impressive. It
Yeah.
never feels like, oh, I chose this, but some of these kinds of things, it's trying to make you feel like you have a lot of choice, but then at a certain point you can tell, like, I think I was going to get, this character was going to say this at this point, sort of regardless of what.
Sure.
And sometimes there'll be things that kind of contradict stuff that you've kind of already chosen, whatever. This just seems like it truly, or every choice you're making is leading you to like a completely unique set of things being said to you, and then the way people treat you when you go back to them and all that kind of stuff. Like, it really feels so alive, and like it really has remembered like every single thing that you've done.
It feels insanely complicated.
Yeah.
Like, you can imagine a big fucking spreadsheet that they've got with all these different branching paths.
Yeah.
Because everything kind of plays in with everything else too. It feels like a lot of different people who are kind of unrelated will end up having an effect on a different part of the world. And,
Yeah.
it all feels cohesive.
Very cohesive.
In that way. I don't much care for the way it looks, to be honest.
Oh, okay.
It looks good in still frames, but in motion, I just thought that the animation and the kind of like the kind of watercolory style that it has doesn't work that well when it's all you can see the polygons moving around.
Oh, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I love it though. I understand that, but I love it. Yeah, it's very watercolory. It's like there's not. Yeah, maybe a little lack of fidelity or something. But
there's not much going on when you're in like a conversation or whatever.
Yeah,
a lot of
true.
the time it is just a static image,
yeah,
basically.
Yeah. But also, lots of text. If you're like I was playing Kentucky Route Zero and I forgot that it's all text. There's no voice acting.
Right.
But I don't mind that.
No.
But it's something to note if you're someone who's like, oh, I've got to read all this stuff.
I've been playing it so with all the voices on and kind of listening to all the acting going through, and I think I might just turn them off and do it like a book because
It is.
the acting's good.
The acting is good, and it does. There's so much personality, and it does really add to it. But I really find that I'm sort of finding it distracting. Like, there's too many things happening on the screen at once. We have these big blocks of text, and I'm often like I'm reading quicker than it's acting it out, and you kind of want to.
And it's all there is to do as well.
Exactly.
All
Yeah.
that's changed on the screen is now you've got a new paragraph of text, and so of course you're going to read it.
Yeah.
But then the acting is good but slow.
Yeah.
Or speech
Right.
speed,
Yeah.
which is
I might-
evidently quite slow.
Apparently,
Sometimes.
people turn up the speed on podcasts.
Yeah.
Or there's even a setting on some apps that
Yeah.
cuts out the silences.
Cool. There's, so it is all good, but it's a bit much,
Right.
Yeah.
I guess. Like,
There's a
the
lot
fact
to
that they
it.
voiced every line is cool, especially like if you could play this game without being able to see particularly well, that'd be awesome.
Yes,
Yeah.
very
If
If
true.
you do want to like just settle in and just not really be looking at the text and just kind of listen to it and like look around the rest of the screen and take all that in. But it feels like such a shame to turn the voice acting off.
Yeah.
Given that, knowing that they have gone to the trouble of getting acting done for every single line, but
Especially the guy who's your main inner voice is so
Right.
like
slow.
he's so good. Like
Yeah.
he's so sinister.
Yes.
As well as being like having a good descriptive
A good
voice.
narrate. Yeah, sort of like
He's
the
like got-
Do you remember Bastion? Do you ever play that?
Like a little bit.
It had a very similar sort of vibe, a very sort of cinematic storytelling voice,
Yeah.
very engaging. I'm very happy that I've played probably the first 7-8 hours of this game now in the past 2 days. I've
Right.
really loved it. I'm really back in on it. And I am very happy that I've played it with the voice acting because it is very good at emphasizing the character of these very interesting characters.
Yes.
But I may switch it off,
Yeah. So yeah, it's a very, like, you've got to be paying attention the whole time.
Yes.
It's a very complex and unerring game. Like, it is doing what it's doing, and it's doing like 50 different things. Well, that's too many, but it's doing
4.
Doing a lot.
6 or 7,
Yeah.
probably, different things, kind of all at the same time. And some of them are, they're all really well written, and sometimes to the point where you're like, oof. It is actually funny.
Yeah.
It does the rare thing, and we've done that a bunch lately.
I think we've played a few games in a row that have been genuinely funny now.
Yeah. And it's cool. It just is like, it's such a ridiculous thing to imagine that they seem to have pulled off.
Right.
Yeah.
This seemingly impossible. It choose your own adventure game.
Yeah.
I think a good comparison for the detective work is, what was it called? Return of the Obra Dinn, because it is
Right.
it genuinely, you get aided by the voices in your head, and that's an interesting mechanic, but you also have to remember shit yourself. You have to be like, oh, this person said that about this person, so if I mention this, it's going to affect them in this way. Like, it genuinely uses like persuasive detective work to solve sometimes not crimes, just interesting stories.
Yeah.
But I'm finding, the more I get into the murder mystery and sort of the union stuff, the politics and all of the weird shit going on, it's rewarding my actually paying attention and trying to think things through.
And it will punish your not doing that too.
Yes.
By, you can just die.
Yeah.
Someone will shoot you.
Yeah.
Or you can fucking jump off a building or whatever. Like, but not for an arbitrary way, not the way of like, do you want to go left or right? You went left, that was the trapdoor. See you later, cunt.
Yeah, you can see exactly where. I think I read somewhere that it's possible to die within like the first minute.
Right.
Yeah. Well, there was a bit where like my inner voice went, hey, maybe don't keep doing this actually, because I don't think this is going in a good direction. And I was like, no, I want to see what happens. That is like, okay, you passed out for 4 hours, dumb cunt.
I did read somewhere that the voice never lies to you. Like, if it's saying back off, then like you can see what happens. But if it's saying this is a bad idea, it's generally you should listen to it. It's not. It's because I've kind of had the thing in my head of like, but really, is this a red herring? Like, you meant to really trust this?
With like RPGs and stuff like this, kind of the habit is to do literally every dialogue choice.
Yes.
To just go through and see what happens.
Yeah.
And you're not meant to do this one like that.
Yeah. I will say, playing it on the PS5, as you would expect, it's not quite as good. Like, having a mouse and being able, I think you can hold down tab and see everything that you can click on the screen. Of course, that's not going to be in there, but and I have this is another one of the kind of big issues that it had when it launched on the PS5. So you use the left stick to move and you use the right stick to kind of select stuff on the screen that you can interact with. And sometimes it's registering a view, like you'll be standing in front of a drawer and selecting it and pressing X to open, and it just won't do it unless you're in like a very specific point on the screen, which I would think that I think they've patched it to make it a little better since it came out, and I would have to assume that they're working to make that even more smooth. But I didn't realize also you can get it on Mac, so I kind of wish I had have done that.
There you go.
But yeah, still looks and plays great. It's just a little thing that and it's whatever. You don't get penalized for not being able to select something quick enough, so it really doesn't matter. All that much.
True.
Yeah. It's a fucking good ass game.
Oh yeah.
It's very cool.
It's a very cool game.
Official cool award from Filthy Casuals.
3 thumbs up?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I grew an extra fucking thumb. 2 thumbs up, mate. That's the maximum.